There was some sort of civilization here before this flood took place, leading up to the ability to build a gigantic pyramid well over 12,000 years ago.
Deep within the rainforests of West Sumatra, Indonesia, a groundbreaking archaeological find has left researchers worldwide astonished. The Gunung Padang temple complex, the most ancient structure on Earth. Sparked by whispered local legends, years of intrepid exploration through perilous jungle terrain led to the hidden ruins, concealed for untold millennia beneath creeping vines and tree roots. Weathered blocks precisely stacked in pyramidal formations and maze-like stone corridors defy modern convention. This monumental jungle shrine threatens mainstream history's accepted timeline. Join us as we explore this ancient Indonesian discovery and its implications for a forgotten civilization that may have shaped mankind's origins. Mysterious jungle discovery in Indonesia. In 1914, Indonesia was under Dutch colonial rule as the Dutch East Indies. Vast plantations dotted the landscape, with Dutch settlers growing cash crops like sugarcane and tobacco. These colonists rarely ventured into the thick jungles that surrounded their farms. However, in early 1914, an unnamed Dutch colonist, fascinated by antiquities and native legends, set out on an extended jungle trek. Rumors of an ancient lost palace hidden deep in the remote forests had captured his imagination. As he plunged into the lush jungle, hacking through vines and pushing through brush, he soon stumbled upon an incredible sight. A massive hill rising out of the jungle floor, with what appeared to be enormous steps carved into its side, leading up to the summit. The curious Dutch climbed the staircase, counting some 370 steps in total, along a path spanning 1,200 feet in length. Reaching the top of the hill, which stood at an elevation of over 900 feet, he beheld a graveyard of sorts. Huge rectangular stone blocks were strewn across the hilltop, seemingly at random. The Dutch stared in wonder at these monoliths, some measuring over 5 feet in length and weighing up to 1,300 pounds. Could this be the lost palace of legend, now collapsed and overgrown by the relentless jungle? Upon returning to his plantation, he promptly wrote to Dutch authorities, urging them to send an expedition party to further explore the site. His remarkable account was published that year in a Dutch archaeological report, causing great interest back in Holland. However, due to political unrest brewing in the Indies, the Dutch government never did mount an exploratory expedition. The incredible discovery faded from memory. Nearly 50 years later, Indonesia won its independence from colonial rule. Then, in 1979, 3 locals who were wandering in the dense jungle stumbled upon the very same ancient site that the Dutch colonist had reported seeing back in 1914. Recognizing it to be an important archaeological site, they contacted heritage authorities. This led Indonesian archaeologists to identify the location as a mountain called Gunung Padang, long rumored by indigenous people to be imbued with mystical energy. Exploring the Gunung Padang site. Intrigued by the rediscovered site's legends and potential significance, the Indonesian government quickly assembled a team in 1979, consisting of researchers from their National Research Center of Archaeology and Department of Heritage Protection and Management. When the team arrived at Gunung Padang, they set about scouring the mountaintop structure and mapping its features. Contrary to what the Dutch settler first believed, the team found that the huge stone blocks littering the hilltop were not crafted by humans, but rather created naturally by the nearby volcano. This andesite stone, forged in the hot furnace of the volcano, had fractured over eons into neatly separated blocks. However, it was also evident that ancient people had hauled these blocks, some weighing over 1,300 pounds, up the hillside and arranged them purposefully into walls, chambers, and other structures. Further archaeological studies suggested that the site consisted of 5 terraces, covering an area of over 3,000 square feet, all meticulously constructed with volcanic stone blocks, and connected by an intricate staircase spanning 1,200 feet in length and climbing to around 900 feet in elevation. Scientists discover an ancient structure in Indonesia. Below this ancient structure's surface layer with its scattered monoliths existed hidden underground structures that would not be discovered until years later. Using standard archaeological techniques, researchers initially dated the stone structures atop Gunung Padang to around 1500 to 500 BCE. This placed construction in the Indonesian Bronze Age by a megalithic culture capable of moving massive blocks via unknown means. Such a dating meant that while Gunung Padang was certainly intriguing, it was not hugely remarkable, since similar stone sites from around that era exist throughout the world. However, this initial assessment of the site's age would turn out to be shockingly incorrect. Shocking new dates for deepest layers. In 2011, senior geologist Dr. Danny Hillman Natawijaja took a particular interest in Gunung Padang after noticing its unusual geology, unlike the surrounding landscape. When Natawijaja and a new team began scanning deep below the surface using drill cores and ground-penetrating radar, they made a series of stunning discoveries that would drastically rewrite history. Far from only existing on the surface, Gunung Padang contained incredibly sophisticated structures, buried far underground in layers. Through radiocarbon dating, the first layer they analyzed beneath the scattered stone monoliths was found to be 3,500 years old. But as researchers drilled deeper, they uncovered a second layer dating back an astonishing 7,500 to 8,500 years. This already shocked the archaeological community and would have demanded a complete rewrite of human history's timelines. However, 50 feet beneath the surface, drill samples revealed a third layer that defied belief. Organic material within this layer was carbon dated to roughly 22,000 to 28,000 years in age. At these incredible depths, volcanic stones had been stacked and cemented in place by an unknown technique to form rooms, tunnels, and other spaces. This discovery sent shockwaves through the scientific community. If accurate, the 28,000-year-old date suggests advanced humans were constructing pyramid-like stone structures during the peak of the last ice age, before almost all evidence of civilization anywhere else on Earth. The data suggested that Gunung Padang's hidden layers, cement work, and underground structures were potentially the oldest human-built site ever discovered, predating Stonehenge and the pyramids of Giza by tens of thousands of years. Of course, such paradigm-shifting claims based on carbon dating have been met with plenty of skepticism by mainstream archaeologists, hesitant to rewrite their textbooks. But ongoing research continues to support the extreme antiquity of Gunung Padang, which may yet reveal itself to be far more than the lost palace of legend, but perhaps the cradle of civilization itself. Findings of Dr. Danny. As senior geologist Dr. Danny Hillman Natawijaja's team explored below Gunung Padang's surface structures in 2011 using radar scans and drill samples, a picture began to emerge of something incredible lying beneath. A terraced pyramid structure spiraling deep underground. Far from a natural mountain, Gunung Padang appeared to be a meticulously engineered edifice crafted layer by layer over the millennia by unknown people possessing advanced construction technique. At depths of around 50 to 70 feet beneath the scattered stone structures on the surface, researchers found evidence via drill cores of an older layer consisting of rooms and pathways similarly built, using stacked volcanic stones weighing 550 to 1,300 pounds each, all perfectly fitted together like a jigsaw puzzle. Deeper underground scans revealed chambers the size of school gymnasiums, supported by huge pillars hewn from the natural bedrock. And below even this middle layer rested a base layer almost 50 feet thick that may contain many more hidden rooms and cavities. In total, scans showed interlocking structures spanning the entire hill and extending for acres in every direction below ground. Calculating the monument's total volume, including the spaces between the stone walls, archaeologists reckoned the entire terraced pyramid complex had to weigh at least 2.5 million tons. Moving blocks of this size would pose immense challenges even with modern equipment. Accomplishing such a feat some 9,600 or 28,000 years ago almost defies comprehension. The precisely hewn pillars and seamless stone-to-stone junctions suggest engineering expertise rivaling or surpassing even Egypt's finest stonemasonry accomplishments. How could such an advanced culture have constructed this technological wonder way back in the Stone Age? Paradigm-shifting implications. As revelations emerged in 2011 of a staggeringly old stepped pyramid network consisting of perfectly fitted stones deep beneath Gunung Padang's surface, archaeologists around Indonesia and the world reacted with a mixture of wonder and heavy skepticism. There was potential evidence that humankind mastered sophisticated construction techniques as far back as the late Ice Age, perhaps necessitating a complete rewrite of the human story. However, mainstream academics recoiled at such huge implications for existing historical paradigms. Most outspoken Indonesian experts, aligned with prominent universities and archaeological establishments, lambasted research efforts at Gunung Padang, leveling accusations that Dr. Danny Hillman Natawijaja used faulty methods and misinterpreted data in ways aimed simply at generating publicity to raise his profile. They argued vehemently against the possibility of any human civilization advancing to such a technological level thousands of years before ancient Egypt and Sumer, insisting no credibility should be given to the shocking radiocarbon dating results taken from deep below ground. Behind outraged public criticism over academic procedures and protocols, some scientists admitted privately that institutional reputations and entire careers stood at risk because of discoveries at Gunung Padang that shattered the bedrock of established historical timelines regarding human origins. Rather than adjusting rigid perspectives, many instead tried ignoring, sidelining, or discrediting interpretations of the evidence that profoundly undermined mainstream dogma. Dr. Natawijaja himself observed that his radical findings were not at all what my colleagues expected or wanted to hear. Incredible discoveries. Despite widespread skepticism aimed at denying, downplaying, or diverting attention from confounding revelations emerging from Gunung Padang's hidden underground history, further excavations continued, with Indonesia's president even providing special funding and resources hoping for more clues about this unsung civilization. Progress remained slow given depth constraints and tedious stone-by-stone examinations, but archaeologists eventually cataloged additional stunning, out-of-place artifacts as more layers got exposed over years of careful digging towards chamber spaces hinted at on scans. In the 7,500-year-old second layer, below deposits left by the megalithic culture first studying the mountain in 1979, searchers were astonished to uncover jewelry pieces, ceramic cookware, clay tablets marked with symbols, primitive religious statues, and hundreds of tools, all highly corroded yet intact. Why would such a dazzling, sophisticated collection have been buried far below ground thousands of years ago, all packed together? The buried trove strongly suggested Gunung Padang had once hosted a populous settlement, somehow erased from memory. Even more remarkably, the excavation catalog contains references to a coin-like object dating back to 5200 BCE, predating the earliest accepted coins by over 4,500 years. Additionally, the hall includes ancient Lemurian artwork that shouldn't exist according to historical timelines. How could such out-of-place relics possibly appear so absurdly deep beneath layers of structured volcanic stones mathematically arranged into rooms and enclosures? Do these artifacts represent evidence of a lost civilization or forgotten ancestral culture that died out before its inheritance could be passed down? Perhaps only by digging deeper can more light be shed on the shadowy origins of this wonder-inspiring monument. Legends and energy signatures. Long before research teams unearthed its stunning subsurface structures in 2011, locals had referred to Gunung Padang simply as the Mountain of Enlightenment, a place understood to embody exceptional spiritual powers. Indigenous traditions described it as containing concentrated mystical energy, capable of conveying great wisdom to those meditating upon its slopes. Seekers of universal truths or personal visions climbed its heights for eons, conducting rituals to invoke metaphysical energies. Why did emotions and sensations here so profoundly stir the soul? In 2014, maverick investigators using specialized instrumentation detected that Gunung Padang broadcasts a special acoustic signature, one echoing the precise harmonic frequencies famously described by the ancient Greek philosopher Pythagoras as underpinning cosmic order. These vibrations synchronize mathematically with the chromatic music scale first documented by Sumerians thousands of years ago. Probe recordings indeed match beautifully consonant chords and intervals now incorporated into Western classical compositions. Might these strange sound qualities, tuned resonances align so harmoniously with later musical theory, explain why the megalithic sanctuary site was attributed magical qualities since time immemorial? Do energies emanating from within somehow stimulate spiritual awakening or collective enlightenment during group meditation meditative gatherings as local legends maintain? If so, how was such an esoteric sonic technology mastered by the pyramid's Neolithic architect? Their astrophysically attuned acoustic air vibrations surpass today's finest auditory engineering capabilities. What message pervades these rich acoustic tapestries infused as background soundtracking into the awesome underground structure? Perhaps answers lie encoded within, awaiting some epiphanic breakthrough revelation. The lost civilization. Indigenous Sundanese people native to West Java province speak of powerful ancients who ruled a vast kingdom stretching across Southeast Asia before it drowned below rising seas. According to their ancestral legends, an advanced society inhabited a now vanished territory called Sundaland, a broad landmass sitting above lowered oceans joining modern islands together as one vast peninsula jutting from mainland Asia. This Riviera paradise existed during previous ice ages when oceans held less water locked up in polar glaciers. It was here the sophisticated lost civilization of Sundaland reached apex advancements. Oral records passed down through innumerable generations describe their capital center called Shining Mountain Palace, constructed by great kings of old. This glorious flowering of early human progress occurred while most global populations remained primitive hunter-gatherers. The majestic row-tiered pyramid complex, crowned with elaborate towers and imbued with divine resonance, established a focal point for unifying culture. Its precisely aligned central axis channeled metaphysical energies to catalyze higher consciousness for all citizens, facilitating untold scientific creativity. Sundaland's ingenious technologies, artistic grandeur, and spiritual wisdom must have indeed seemed godlike to less sophisticated tribes outside its sphere of influence. But the Golden Age was not to last. Cataclysm struck, as glacial ice caps melted, causing sea rise that incrementally swallowed their realm, compelling evacuation. Much knowledge transferred eastward, seeds birthing derivative daughter societies like fledgling India's Hindus. Though the shining mother culture was lost below waves, elder legends endured enshrining passages hinting at former glories. Like fractured mirrors obliquely intimating reflections of forgotten beauty, they tantalize without fully illuminating the opaque past. So, Gunung Padang's meticulously stacked stones, still radiating arcs of insight, remain solitary testaments to bygone architects awaiting full rediscovery. Their psychoacoustic secrets yearn for decryption from spiritual successors. Now it's time for today's subscriber pick. Scientists discover an ancient structure in Indonesia. After the discovery of the Gunung Padang site, amateur researchers started exploring the dense Indonesian jungle and obscure islands for more clues about ancient civilizations. One group of diving enthusiasts may have stumbled upon the most astounding underwater discovery yet. Allegedly, they found an ancient structure deliberately built under the sea. Over multiple dives off the coast of Bali, the researchers documented carved stone blocks stacked in the shape of a huge gateway or portal, resting 15 meters down on the seafloor. Strangest of all, the submerged structure has no hinges or any visible means of opening what would be an impenetrable wall of stone. Speculation ranges from the supernatural to advanced ancient technologies lost to time. Could this fascinating underwater discovery be evidence of an advanced ancient civilization with capabilities modern archaeology cannot explain? Was it meant as a gateway between realms for religious rituals? Let us know your thoughts and speculations in the comments below. Controversy and disaster. Despite President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono championing excavations during his administration over 2010-2014, declaring the site vital to humanity for positioning Indonesia as inheritor of Earth's possibly earliest advanced society, political winds shifted before Dr. Danny Hillman. Natawijaja's teams could conclusively date deeper layers. Once initial carbon-14 dating results challenged orthodox models by extending indicators of intelligent habitation towards the late Pleistocene era over 20,000 years ago, establishment resistance mounted quickly from status quo corners. The emerging paradigm implying precocious cultures could have engineered massive stone temples during the planet's last glacial age, severely threatened multiple disciplines resting upon contrary underlying assumptions. Rather than amend selectively self-serving principles, enshrining their own authority's continuity, reactionary scholars circled wagons to shoot invasive facts by attacking lacking ill-fitting data's legitimacy. Methods became suspect through a hyperbolic critique of excavation technique. Strident calls arose for further studies to supersede findings. Granting agencies faced lobbying pressures. Prominent media outlets were fed hit pieces, marginalizing discoveries. And those responsible for such troublesome excavations were publicly censured, reducing credibility. Once President Joko Widodo assumed power in 2014, ResearchGate slammed shut, terminating Dr. Natawijaja's frustrating tenure. No bindings of state neutrality protected Indonesia's maverick scientific team, challenging established foundations lacking empirical impartiality. They were forcibly replaced by revivalist members from old institutional guards, hatchet-wielding Occam's razor for severing hopes that ancestors claimed biogenetic bonds linking X to Y. What political calculus recast prior archaeological goals for greatness as destabilizing error from scholar wings demanding pasts conforming with ingrained teachings? Does shifting status quo necessity require forgetting cultural continuums that might have declines foreshadowing falls for rigid unitary state? New chroniclers split connected threads, leaving gaps between excess devaluing, supporting discoveries. Revelations at Gunung Padang increasingly point towards construction by an incredibly sophisticated culture thriving on Earth during the late Pleistocene era. This period dates well over 10,000 years ago, long before the current world order assumed its present shape. Mainstream scholars, in response to these findings, have diligently scoured the planet for other pre-Holocene evidence. This evidence seems to display comparable advancement, a notion that stands inconsistent with officially sanctioned accounts. These accounts compress all monumental progress into the last 6 millennia. Orthodoxy clings to narrow explanations, wedging all structural complexity into recent time slots, assigning mere primitive status lacking higher cultural ascendancy or abstract ideation to any deeper ancestral phases. But a growing body of inconvenient finds directly dispute such constraints imposed by conservative chronology gatekeepers. Turkey's Göbekli Tepe complex, for example, first discovered during a 1963 survey, yet initially dismissed as fragments from an irrelevant medieval cemetery, turns out upon focused excavation to showcase finely carved limestone pillar megaliths engineered into a full-fledged temple site dating to 10,500 years ago, almost 8,000 years older than Stonehenge. Gigantic handled T-pillars up to 18 feet tall and weighing over 95 tons apiece were arranged into circumferential rings and adorned with exquisite pictorial symbols of animals, abstract shape, human hands, and a notorious enigmatic icon. Sophisticated artistic renderings engraved into hard stone seem out of place when attributed to European hunter-gatherers, contemporaneous with sites like Göbekli Tepe, since its mysterious pillars were erected millennia before the invention of metal tools or even pottery. Their means of creation during the pre-pottery Neolithic era remain inexplicable. Carbon dating also confirms Göbekli Tepe's construction as occurring in 8100 BCE, aligned with the pre-boreal phase when Scandinavian glaciers just finished their melt-out retraction. This permits assigning authorship to Northern European cultures, supposedly marked by only the most primitive existences, scarcely beyond cave dwellings. How could such allegedly unrefined people scaffold massive carved stoneworks on an engineered hilltop? Even more incredibly, infrared surveys reveal over 20 additional buried structures nearby, implying Göbekli Tepe formed merely a sacred centerpiece surrounded by vast connected settlement locations still to be excavated after 12,000 years. German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt, first discovering its true antiquity through puzzling recent glacier-like mineral deposit overlaying the site, realized instantly from its high context. Dismissing initial thoughts of medieval gravestones, he recognized this temple art's continuity with regional Neolithic culture, but its structural sophistication defied belief in such radically early mass monument construction. As Schmidt later elaborated regarding sculptural themes, naturalistic sculptures of this quality do not seem to exist anywhere else this early on. No precursor steps explain its sheer explosive advancement. Orthodoxy faces a deep quandary. Meanwhile, another equally confounding underwater complex discovered off Japan's Yonaguni Island could add literal insult to injury against conservative prehistory chronology. In 1986, local diver Kihachiro Aratake first noticed precisely hewn megalithic stone terraces, retaining walls, 10-foot pillars, carved staircases, and twin parallel monuments below over 100 feet of Pacific coastal water. This submerged megastructure, known as Japan's Sunken Pyramid, spans a 2.5-mile-long rectangle with elaborate geometrical layouts following cardinal orientations, right angles, and intelligently designed engineering unquestionably created by mastery hands from some forgotten past era. It's mind-boggling underwater sitting that far back, during a Paleolithic period with miles-deeper shorelines now drowned by post-glacial meltwater rise, puts the entire received historical timeline upside down in disarray. Foundational pillars like these discoveries make academic corrections unavoidable. Skeptics try relegating the Yonaguni site to freakish but random geological memetoliths, strangely self-organized piles of triangle rocks shaped by pounding sea currents that merely resemble human architecture. They claim no actual masonry exists there, as radical alternative interpreters contend. But cutting marks and holes demarcate key areas like quarry work on megaliths. Most likely, the immersed monument occupies Japan's submerged continental shelf, dating its Neolithic creators before the local late Pleistocene sea level increase. If so, orthodox records will require total rewritten timelines catalyzed by Indonesian evidence joined now on two immense additional fronts: Great Flood myths and sunken civilizations. Myths of an ancient cataclysmic deluge destroying original civilization appear ubiquitously across most world cultures, passed down through folklore traditions from time immemorial. Indigenous Sundanese legends, for example, maintain that much of their ancestral Southeast Asian kingdom called Sundaland vanished below sea waves, relatively recently on a geological timescale. Local stories still retell ancestral accounts of a shining mountain palace complex built long ago, then drowned during the Great Flood before written record-keeping began. Hints resonate as well with Plato's account circa 360 BCE, concerning the sunken capital metropolis of Atlantis, swallowed into the Atlantic Ocean after earthquakes sent it sinking below destructive tidal waves some 9,000 years earlier, around 9,500 BCE. Perhaps such prevalent global flood myths originate from dim collective race memories of that terminal Pleistocene cataclysm 13,500 years ago, when mile-high glacial Lake Agassiz burst through its enormous ice dam moraine, suddenly releasing more flow than all Earth's rivers combined. This abrupt, epic Old Testament-scale deluge then rapidly raised sea levels worldwide by up to 400 feet, inundating previous Ice Age coastal territories, destroying all existing civilizations and scrambling continental shelves. Now submerged, this event would effectively erase most structural traces, especially on the world's shallow eastern seafloor. Plenty remains undiscovered under modern oceans. The exercise generates more penetrating questions than quick explanations about ancient unknowns. Only recently did high-resolution LiDAR scanners mounted on research vessels begin bathymetric detailed seafloor mapping down to resolutions finer than 10 inches, covering just 0.05% of ocean bottoms so far. What other evidence might lay testifying to advanced cultures existing nearer Ice Age shorelines before the Great Melt Flood? Perhaps atmospheric scanning from space could help teams pinpoint promising underwater archaeological sites. Once located, robotic drones like those that found the Titanic could obtain photographic mosaics proving whether mistaken relics of old really may populate the darkened abyssal plains. Those secrets will only reveal themselves in due course of time as the slow surgery of truth proceeds. Connections to Hindu-Buddhist temples. As Dr. Nadawijaja and his research teams excavated down through layers of precisely stacked volcanic stone blocks at Gunung Padang, they made note of striking similarities between this ancient stepped pyramid's underlying structure and design themes found in later Hindu-Buddhist temples erected across Indonesia. Temple ruins dotting sites like Prambanan and Borobudur on the island of Java, constructed around 700 to 900 CE, feature familiar patterns of stone masonry craftsmanship, marked by perfectly fitted blocks, interlocking Lego-like walls, rectangular enclosures, and a succession of terraces leading to a central peak shrine structure topped by multiple jewel-spired pinnacles aimed heavenward. Could descendants of Gunung Padang's pyramid builders have retained their construction knowledge across the ages to inform later religious complexes engineered by Indian migrant cultures. Continuity between the buried mountains' intricate stone walls, with iconic towering temples coming nearly 8,000 years later, suggests the possibility. Like an umbilical thread weaving across vast epochs, the same sacred mandala zone planning lies embedded in both locations, oriented to the four cardinal directions and solar equinoxes. Fascinating parallels exist between Gunung Padang's acoustically enhanced meditation chambers, tuned to musical harmonic, and certain Hindu legends referencing mystical mountain caves where enlightened sages chanted to manifest magical cities through sonic technology. Architectural resonance discoveries seem to unlock Indic civilization's deepest matrix codes, pointing to a shared ancestral infinite pyramid heritage. This profound civilizational continuity, cradled gently through all destructive ages by careful elite keepers, now unveils in homecoming glory, lost to time. Gunung Padang represents only the visible tip poking through soil and vegetation, hinting at profound revelations still suppressed underground like icebergs with deeper mystery waiting underneath. This majestic sight is no longer the only witness signaling previous hidden peak cycles of human greatness. Construction mastery and artistic sophistication, auguring an almost unbelievable reach back to the late Pleistocene, now spark stunned recognition from multiple independent accelerator sites that can no longer suffer debunking or dismissal so easily on petty grounds. The genie of ancient cosmopolitan genius preceding our current era by over 10,000 years refuses containment. Too many corroborating streams overwhelm diversion dams, walling the general public off from astounding heritage discoveries and poking holes through false overlaying narratives demanding minimization of ancestry capabilities. Advanced cultures enjoyed thriving interconnected trade linkages throughout Asia and Europe up to 12,000 years ago, until the Great Flood wiped environments clean. Survivors would have migrated elsewhere, scattering knowledge into derivative daughter colonies like refugee seeds birthing emergent shoots in new homes. Lost science and technology achievements hinted by an accumulating wealth of out-of-place antiquities ranging from Indonesian cement working, Egyptian electricity usage, and South American aeronautics await rediscovery. But established experts resist enlarging insufficient theoretical frameworks, imprisoning inspiration's wellspring, hence starving our age of revivifying pulses into jaded postmodern spirits yearning for nourishment from vivid pasts. Any seeking civilization salvation must penetrate the occulted ancestry curtain for raising necessary foundational cornerstones, or else risk unavoidable decline through severance from vital roots. Therefore, an urgent choice today pivots on whether vision should gaze forward or backward in defining identity and coaching destiny. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.